Today, we're going to talk about your biggest marketing opportunity in 2022. And that, of course, is, drumroll please, your website. As much as it may not seem like it, it's not the newest technology, it's not the latest craze. We're not talking about the metaverse here, but your website is the foundation of your marketing. And I'm going to talk today about how you can use it to generate more leads, more sales, and more revenue through your website. So if you have any issues or questions, please put those in the chat box, in the question box. We'll address those, but let's get started. First, as Kimberly said, a little bit about myself, just briefly here. I'm an advisor to marketing executives and teams globally. Here's just a couple of places where I've been featured in. You've heard enough about me. As Kimberly said, you can find me online, connect with me on LinkedIn, all that good stuff. And feel free to ask me any questions in the chat box, in the question box throughout this presentation. Let's start first with the fundamentals. Why is your website so important? You probably know it's important. You probably realize it's important, but let's talk about why it's so important. Because on the left-hand side here, we have the people who are coming to your website. And these are just some of the groups of people. You have internal teams who reference your website for materials, for sales materials, for all sorts of information. You have obviously your customers who are coming to your website for information because they need help, because they want to do business with you. You have partners and vendors, the news media and PR. They're coming there to see what's new, what's happening, learn about your company and your business. And on the right-hand side, you're driving traffic. You have people coming to your site from a variety of places, like Google. Obviously, we all use Google. We all do searches. Advertising, if you're doing paid advertising, all of that is leading back in some form or fashion to your website. Social media, email, all of this comes back to your website. It is the foundation of all of the marketing that you do. And yet, most people don't give their website the time and attention and love that it deserves. So today I'm going to talk about that and walk you through some of the essential things you need to be thinking about in 2022 to improve your website. Because the reality is your website is the bottleneck, and it's also the foundation for any future growth. And what I mean by that is that every 1% improvement you make to your website will dramatically improve your marketing. And so if you want to improve your marketing, if you want to have better results, if you want to lower your cost of acquisition, if you want to get more traffic, this centers around improving your website. And whether you want to hear it or not, your website has a lot of room for improvement, I'm sure. I look at tons of websites every day, every week, and there's so much opportunity for improvement. And so make 2022 the year to focus on your website, to improve your website, and to get more out of it. So let's start by talking big picture here. There are three things that you need for your website, three things every website needs. And this is very simple, but don't discount the simplicity of this. First, you need traffic. Traffic means people coming to your website. You can have the greatest website in the world, but if no one's coming to it, it doesn't matter. The second is experience. And what I mean by that is two things. One, you have to give people a good experience. They have to be able to navigate and to find what they're looking for and to enjoy using their site. But also you have to leave them with an experience that's changed them in some way. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. And the third, of course, is conversions, right? We want our website to do something for us, to generate business, to generate results. So whether that's capturing leads or selling things and making purchases, we need to convert people. And so let's break this down here because this is really important. I've put numbers on the overlaps here of this Venn diagram. If you're at number one, then you have traffic coming to your website, but you don't have a good experience. People don't have a great experience and they're left kind of with a sour taste in their mouth. That's a problem because you don't have conversions. And so you have essentially a leaky bucket. You got a lot of stuff coming in, but it just pours out to no result, to no avail. Number two is if you have traffic and conversions, but you don't give people a good experience. Well, that's good. You're still converting people, right? And you have a lot of traffic, but that has a short runway. You won't last for a long time like that because a lot of changes are happening. I'll talk about those in just a few minutes. Number three is if you have a great experience and you have lots of conversions, that's great, right? People come to your site and they enjoy it, they benefit from it, and they convert. However, you don't have a lot of people coming to your site. In this case, you're sitting on a gold mine because you can get more people to your site, they're going to have a great experience, they're going to convert, etc. So it's a great opportunity that you're sitting on. But number four is the epitome. This is the key. This is success, right? Lots of traffic, giving people a wonderful, pleasant, enjoyable experience, and having them convert and do business with you. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is how to get here. What does this look like? How can you transform your website into number four? But before we do that, I want to launch the first poll here and ask you guys a question as we begin here, which is where are you? Where would you put your website? Are you number one, number two, number three, or number four? And so if we can launch that poll, then please answer it. And let's see here, because I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are. If you're needing more traffic, if you want to improve your experience, if you think your website is a gold mine, or if you're sitting on a lot of success already and you just need to build on top of that. So we'll give you 10 seconds here to answer that, and then we'll look at the results here and see what the poll is. So 10 more seconds, go ahead, just choose one of those. Don't think about it too much, just pick one. We're gonna close the poll here in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go ahead and close that poll, and let's take a look at the results here. Okay, so the number one winner here is the short runway. So you have a lot of traffic and you're getting conversions, but you don't deliver a great experience. And that's great, because we're gonna talk about that. And number two standout here is leaky bucket. You have a lot of traffic, you give people a good experience, but they don't convert. And we'll talk about that as well. Perfect. Excellent. Thanks so much for playing my game there. Well, let's continue and dive in here and talk more about this. So let me switch over my screen. The 7 essential elements of your website. These are the 7 things that you need. So if you were a short runway result, or if you were a leaky bucket, pay attention to this, because these address both of those primary challenges that people see with their websites. The first being value. So if you want to improve the experience of your website, if you were a short runway person, this is for you. Your website has to give people value. And I'll talk about this because this can seem kind of hard to grasp. But providing value on your website solves 99% of your problems. The reason most websites don't convert people, don't give people a good experience, is because they're not giving people value. And again, I'll define that for you in just a minute here, but you have to give people value. And how most people think about websites is like a billboard. This is obviously Times Square here, and you can see all the billboards here, and there's just so many, and they have no real value. They're just shouting at you and showing you different images that no one really asked for, no one really cares about. And so have you ever seen a really good billboard? Because I certainly haven't. And that's the problem, is we have to stop building billboards as our websites, because nobody ever wanted a billboard. And yet, if you look at some of your competitors' sites, maybe even your own site, it's kind of like a billboard. It's just giving people information they're not asking for, and it's shouting at them. And so most websites are not much better than billboards. And I want to talk to you about how to change that, how to fix that. Because what we need to do instead is provide an experience for people. And this is, whether it's a concert or a play or something like that. That's what I think of when I think of experience. An experience really is something people crave. And especially now, especially in this pandemic times, people crave experiences, but digitally, people crave valuable experiences, and they line up for them, right? They spend money at them, and they come back again and again. That's what you want for your website. You want people to line up for it, spend money with you, and come back again and again. And so we need to focus on creating valuable experiences. And so this is how you do it. You provide value and create an experience that people actually want. And let me pause there for a second, because this can get overlooked. You have to create an experience that people actually want. Not what you think should go on your website, not that you want to put on your website, but creating something that people actually want. That's the hard part. I'll give you a really good example of that here with Zappos. Zappos is a site that's been around for a really long time. Maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't. But I personally buy all of my shoes on Zappos. As ridiculous as that sounds, it's an online store for shoes. And so I've never set foot in a Zappos. They don't exist. It's an online store. And Zappos is an amazing place for buying shoes. And now they sell clothing and all sorts of things. But Zappos creates a valuable experience for people. And they were founded based on this idea of culture and how you treat people and being a service-oriented business. But Zappos at one point was outselling Amazon on shoes at a higher price. In other words, the exact same shoe they sold on Zappos, they sold on Amazon. It was cheaper on Amazon, but Zappos would sell more of them. And why is that? How is that? And this is what led Amazon to actually buy out Zappos and acquire Zappos, because Zappos' website was so valuable to people that they would forgo Amazon and the cheaper prices. So how did they do this? Well, there's 3 things that they did really well. One is they created a valuable experience. And what I mean by that is they offered free shipping both ways. And you think, what do you mean both ways? Well, they would ship it to you for free. And if it didn't fit, if you didn't like it for any reason, you ship it back and they would pay for the shipping back. This was unheard of at the time. Now Amazon does this in a lot of ways, but this was unheard of when Zappos was first created. And that was an amazing, valuable benefit to shopping there. But second, more importantly, and this is present day website of Zappos, they have a video for almost every pair of shoes you can buy on Zappos. where a person, a human, is holding the actual pair of shoes and talking about the benefits, showing you the sole of the shoe, inside the shoe, and then puts them on and walks around so you can see how someone actually walks in these shoes. You can't find this at Amazon. They don't do this at Amazon. This is what creating a valuable experience and giving people something they want looks like in practice. So think about how you can do this in your business, on your website. What do people actually want? And what effort can you put in to create that the competitors won't do? But the third thing Zappos did really well is their review system. If you see on the right here, they have a rating system for their shoes that they created about the size and how big or small it is, if it runs narrow or wide, if it has good or poor support. That's detail about the shoes because they specialized in shoes that Amazon didn't have and still to this day doesn't have. And so this is really valuable. Again, this is giving people what they want. And if you read the reviews on Zappos, people love Zappos and they talk about all the other shoes that they've bought on Zappos and they compare them. It's a real community of people who are passionate about footwear. It's really remarkable. I'm not that into it. I just buy my shoes there because it's really convenient. They have amazing service. But I recommend next time you want to buy shoes, check out Zappos and you can learn a lot from that experience and from their website. So the question for you here is your website a billboard or is it an experience? And for you people who were a short runway type of person, type of answer, your website is probably more like a billboard than an experience. So look to Zappos, look to others to see how you can create a valuable experience and provide value to your customers, to your prospects, and to your audience of things they actually want. Let's move on. There's a lot to cover here. Number 2 is blog. It is essential in 2022 that every website has a blog. We've all heard of this site called Google, right? And we all search, and there are millions and millions of searches happening every day. At the time we're saying this, lots of searches are happening, and people are finding either your site or your competitors. And if you don't have a blog, if you're not producing content, you're not showing up enough in Google. And so it's imperative that you create a blog if you don't have one, and that you focus on improving your blog and your search engine rankings if you do have one. So real quickly, I'll run through these. These are a few quick statistics about blogging and searches. 94% of internet searches happen on a Google property. That means Google itself or YouTube, which is owned by Google, which is the number 2 largest search engine in the world. 49% of users, half of users, say they use Google to discover or find a new item or product. My question to you is, are they finding and discovering you? And if not, you need to fix that. 60% of consumers say blog posts are valuable in the early stages of the buying process. This is why it's so important that you produce blog posts and blog content, because the majority of consumers in the early stages of the buying process are looking for that and need that. And last one here, 55% of marketers list blog content creation as a top inbound marketing priority. If you're not producing blog content, you need to be. It's important. So your website must absolutely have a blog in 2022. And if you don't, make plans to change that. If you want help with this, there's a great book called They Ask, You Answer, written by this guy who has a pool business. And it's a fascinating book, really easy to approach and read. It explains strategically, conceptually, and tactically how to do this and how to get traffic from people in your domain, your industry, for your audience. Number 3, mobile. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a website that does not have a good mobile experience. And I'm going to challenge you in just a minute here to look at your own website on mobile. But here is one of my clients, and this is their traffic from last year. So 5.5 million users, 5.5 million people came to this site. And can you guess how many were on mobile? Let's talk about percentages. Is it 10%? Is it 20%? Is it 90%? The numbers shocked me here. Here's the numbers on the right here. 70% of people who came to this site were on mobile out of 5.5 million people. Mobile is the number 1 now. It used to be kind of half and half, 50-50. Everyone is on mobile. You're probably on your phone right now doing something else other than listening to me. I see you there. But lots of people are on mobile. And so it's really, really important that your website is updated to be mobile first, to look good, to work well on mobile. So right now, take a second, and if you're on your phone, stop what you're doing, stop that email, and just open up your website. Go to your browser and type in your website and open it up on your phone, and then just navigate around, click around, try to do different things, move around different pages, and see how it looks. Does it look good? Can you read everything? Are things easy to tap on? Is it easy to get around and navigate? Really take time to try this out, and you'll probably be shocked by what you find, because you'll find that some things are broken or don't look right or hard to click on, hard to reach, etc. This is really important. I can't stress this enough, but I just showed you 70% of people are on mobile. For my client, for one of my clients, probably for your website as well. While you're doing that, while you're looking at your phone, I wanted to show you here 3 bad examples. Don't do this. This is what not to do. On the left, we have Old Navy on mobile. Look at this page. It's horrible, right? You can barely see anything. There's this pop-up. There's all these deals popping up. I don't even know what to do next. In the middle, we have Ruby Tuesdays. I think they're dying a slow death, unfortunately. I used to love going there. You tell my food taste here. But look at this page. It's horrendous. You can't even read the top text of these menu items. There's all this stuff going on. It's way too busy. And on the right, if I didn't show you the title here, you probably would never guess this is SeaWorld. There's no branding at all on the top. There's no header navigation. There's nothing to tell me what to do. This is SeaWorld.com. I was shocked. So 3 examples of what not to do. Don't make them busy. Make them clean and simple, easy to navigate, and really try to do this yourself. Pull up your own site, pull up your competitor's site, and go through there. Click through there. It is really important. Let's move on for time's sake. Number 4 is lead capture. If your website is not converting people, then you need to pay attention here. This is lead capture, how to capture leads and nurture those and communicate with people who are coming to your website. Lead capture is all about getting users' information. When they come to your site, how can you collect their information so you can keep in contact with them and develop that relationship over time? Most people who come to a website don't purchase right away. They don't want to put in their information right away. So the more you can grab this, the more you can talk to people and stay in touch with them, the more effective you'll be long-term with driving sales and revenue. So here's some examples of lead capture on pages. This is what's called a primary call to action. This is on the page itself, just saying, hey, try us out. Put in your email, try it for free, sign up. Very low-hanging opportunity here. And think about how you can add these if you don't have them to your site. How can you ask people to put their information to get started, to try a demo, to download something, any type of call to action like that. You can see here below this, they've added some social proof, all these badges and awards they've won, which helps people make the decision that, yeah, I guess I can trust you. Let me put in my email and try it for free. There's newsletter opt-ins. If you have a blog, this is a great thing to do, where you can have people enter their email to get subscription updates from your newsletter, from your blog. Whenever you put out new content or a new report or whatever it is, people can subscribe and get that information from you. And then, a really good thing to consider here is lead magnets. We talked about blogging, but you can take some of that and put it into a PDF or a video or a presentation like this one, and then have people download it, put in their name and email and download it to get some information. And all of this is capturing their information, but more importantly, it's having them raise their hand to say, hey, I'm interested in your business. I'm interested in talking to you about this. I'm interested in more information about this. So now you can target those people and segment them based on the type of content, the type of information they're requesting from you. So this is really, really valuable. And then you can create sequences to email people and begin conversations with them over time based on what they've gotten from you. Last one here is exit intent pop-ups. If you don't have this on your site, add it today. This is transformative. Basically what happens here is someone's on your site, they move around, and as they go to leave, this pops up and says, hey, wait, before you leave, go ahead and do this thing. This is very common. It's not spammy. It used to be considered spammy. It's not. Everyone does this. And if you don't do it, you're leaving money on the table because you can get people, you can see here, search engine land, big site. This is HubSpot on the right, 600,000 fellow marketers. Get people to join your newsletter, get them to download something, get them to schedule a call with you. There's lots of actions they can take, but have an exit intent pop-up. It's transformative. So the goal here with lead capture is to give the user many opportunities for them to give you their information, again, in exchange for value. What can you give them that would be so enticing to them? I call it a honeypot. So enticing to them that they have to put in their information to get it from you. Whether it's a report, an industry report, upcoming information, the latest research, whatever you can create or put together, create something that people want to give you their information for so you can begin that conversation. All right, number 5 is tracking. I'll try to go quickly through this. I don't want to get too technical here, but how can you possibly improve your performance of your website if you don't know what's happening on it? And so tracking is essential. And most of you probably don't have enough tracking or the right tracking. And I want to show you what that looks like today. Here's just a few things you can track on your website. Obviously, what people click on, how far they scroll down, how much time they spend on your site, if they submit a form, if they download something or watch a video, if they make a purchase, what pages they're going to, what geographic location they're coming from, what browser they're using. You can track all of this stuff. That's pretty easy to do so. So if you're not tracking it, make sure you get this information. because it can tell you a lot about who's on your site and what they're doing. And that can guide your decisions about how you change your site and how you improve your site to get more out of it. If you're not using Google Analytics, you should be. And if you are, you need to learn how to use it well or have someone in your company who can use it effectively. This is what it looks like. It's free, completely free. It's the standard in the industry, and there's so much power behind it. Even in the large companies that I work with, most people don't know how to get the full value out of it, how to use it effectively. And so there's a lot of opportunity here to get Google Analytics, use it, and learn how to use it well, because there's so many insights you can get from it to drive your website. The other tool here is Google Tag Manager. Again, this is from Google. It is also free. There's no excuse for not using it. This just makes adding all that tracking I just talked about really easy to maintain, really easy to use. Again, you need someone who understands this and understands how to use it, but make sure you're using it. It'll change how the tracking works and makes it so much easier. But let me talk about something really interesting that maybe you don't know about, which is something like Hotjar. Hotjar is a paid service, but I highly recommend it. I use it with almost all of my clients. Hotjar tracks what people do on your website in a different way. It actually watches people almost over their shoulder to see how they move around, what they click on, how much time they spend. So you can watch basically a video of every person who's come to your website and see exactly what they did and how they moved around and what they were doing. That is tremendously powerful, to be able to watch people who went to certain pages and see how they scrolled and how much time they spent and what they clicked on and where they moved, and just literally look over their shoulder and watch them use your website. There's so much information you can get from that and so much you can learn. So I recommend checking out Hotjar. It has a ton of power and a ton of usefulness from that functionality. Let's move on now to number 6 here. We're almost done this list and we'll go to the next topic here. Number 6 is retargeting. Retargeting is the act of targeting and showing ads to people who have come to your website and done something on your website. So I'll give you an example here. If I go to the website on the left and look at this dog door, and then I go down to Facebook and I forget about it, I'm going to see this ad on the right here on Facebook for this dog door saying, hey, we know you looked at this dog door and you're probably still thinking about it. Come back and buy the dog door. So that's an example of retargeting. And this is extremely powerful. And many people aren't using this effectively on their website. So what I mean by that is, well, first let me tell you why retargeting. You can create higher quality targeting. So if I know who come to my website and what pages they went to and what actions they did, I can now target you based on that information. So I can say, I know you downloaded this thing, or I know you looked at this page, or I know you filled out this form. Now I can show ads to you based on that higher quality targeting, knowing what you've done. But also I can bring you back to my website. I can say, hey, you left my website. You should have stayed there. You should have done business with me. You should have contacted us, but you didn't. Come back, see this ad because I know you came to my website. So retargeting is extremely powerful in this capacity. If you're not doing it, you really should do it, because the advertising costs here are the lowest out of all the ads. If you want to run ads to a brand new audience, it's very expensive. If you want to run ads to audience through retargeting, it's much cheaper. So there's no excuse not to do retargeting. Here's briefly how it works. I'm not going to belabor this. I don't want to overwhelm this with a complicated diagram, but on the left here, people come to your website. And when they come to your website, basically you drop a pixel, which tells someone like Facebook that, hey, they visited my website. Tim has visited my website. And once Facebook has that pixel, now when I go to Facebook, I can show Tim an ad to come back to my website because I know that he's come to the website from the pixel. But furthermore, you can do that at any step of your website. So if they visit a key page, you can pixel them. If they add something to the cart, you can pixel them. If they make a purchase, you can pixel them. And then you can show ads to people based on these actions that they've done. So if I add to the cart but don't purchase, you can pixel me and show me an ad that says, hey, you added to the cart but you didn't purchase, come back and purchase. So think about all the use cases here. There's hundreds of them of what people have done or have not done on your website, and be able to show them ads to get them further down the funnel to take action. So if you were someone who has a lot of traffic and a great experience, but not many conversions, leaky bucket type person, this is what you should be focused on, is retargeting. How can we retarget, spend some money on ads, and get people to come back to the website and to take the action that we want them to take? Last of the list here is number 7, landing pages. Then we'll move to the next topic. Landing pages are separate pages. They're part of your website, but they're really not part of your website. And they're created to drive a specific action from someone. So I'll give an example here. If you go to bamboohr.com, which is an HR software, this is their homepage. And I'm showing you mobile here because remember, mobile first, mobile everything. This is their homepage. you can see it's very welcoming, it's very inviting. There's a demo webinar coming up. They talk about, you can see some people are talking about knock their socks off, sign up for a free trial, but it's very soft, this very homepage if you will. If you search and see an ad for Bamboo HR and you click on the ad, you'll notice it doesn't go to the homepage. It goes to a landing page, which is a separate page entirely. You can't find this page on their website. And this page, you can see, immediately is asking for my email address and my phone number and how many employees I have. This is the power and the use of landing pages, that when we're running ads or any kind of direct call to action and spending money on that, we don't want to send people to the homepage and let them try to find their way around. We want to go straight to the point and ask them for their information and show them the next step to take. By doing this, landing pages can increase your conversion rates tremendously. So again, if you're a leaky bucket, if you fell into that category, make sure you have landing pages. You need a lot of landing pages, and these can be very targeted and very effective, especially if you're investing in paid advertising. So again, dramatically higher conversion rates from landing pages, and also they're easier to test changes. They're easier to track because they're separate from your website, and they're easier to customize. You don't have to change your whole website to change a landing page. It's just one page that you can change. So landing pages have a ton of benefit, and they're pretty easy to set up and manage and maintain, but they're essential, especially if you're doing paid advertising, and even if you're not. So let's pause here. What is your biggest opportunity for your website? Here's the 7 things I just walked through. I'm going to have more to talk about, but just pause here briefly. Which one of these are you going to focus on over the next quarter? Is it value? Is it blog, mobile? Maybe it's retargeting? Just pick one of these. Just note it in your head and make a note of it so you can get back with your team and get back with your company and say, we need to focus on this aspect of the website to improve it. Just pick one. You don't have to do all 7. Just pick one and get started and make progress. That's much better than trying to do all 7 and worry about that. Let me tell you first now about the 3 critical mistakes that people make when they try to update their website or change their website or anything like this, because I don't want you to go back and try to do all this stuff and have some troubles here. The first mistake is rebuilding. Very rarely do you ever need to rebuild your website. And so this, you maybe have seen this before, this is what people think success looks like. You start at point A, you go to point B. That is not what success looks like. Here's what success actually looks like, and I'm sure you can relate to this. It's a mess, right? It's a jumble. Think about the last year and how that's gone, right? No one could have predicted so much of this. So don't think from the lens of rebuilding your website. That's an arduous, expensive, complicated process. There are certainly times to do that, don't get me wrong, but for the majority of you, you don't need to rebuild. You need to tweak and improve and work on this incrementally rather than thinking about throwing away and rebuilding. So I'm going to encourage you with that you don't have to have this mentality of rebuilding. Number 2 is building for hippos, not users. And if you haven't heard this, then you're probably confused. And so I apologize, but hippos stands for the highest paid person's opinion, basically. And so this may be your boss, it might be you, but whoever gets paid the highest often has the final say. And I'm sure you've seen this happen time and time again. They say, we should do this, we're going to do this. And there's no discussion about it, there's no debate, there's no consideration of users and how the actual people using your website are going to respond. It's just, I want to do this, we're going to do this. So don't build your website for the hippos. Build it for the users. Talk to the users who are the people using your website and ask them what they want. Ask them what's missing. Get their feedback. So running a survey or talking to users or having customer service and support talk to people is a great way to get feedback so you know what to do and what not to do. And number 3 is set it and forget it. Your website should not be static. And so you have to keep testing it and making incremental improvements to it. You can't just build a site and hope that it's good enough forever. You have to keep tweaking it and improving it and changing it. And we'll talk more about this in just a second, but you can't just leave it alone. Here's a very simple but very powerful example. One of my clients has an e-commerce site, and you can see here there's a cart button, which I've highlighted in red at the top. And if they had just left the site alone, it was working well, they were doing well, but I told them we should change this cart button because using it myself, I found that it's hard to find. And I think other people probably have the same problem. And so we changed the cart button to make it bigger. Look at this, we made it a lot bigger, and now it's just on the right. That's a tiny change. You see this incremental improvement I'm talking about. But the significance of this is that one change for them resulted in $200,000 in increased revenue in the first year alone. From this tiny, ridiculous change. I mean, that's remarkable, right? It seems unbelievable almost, but it's because You don't need to rebuild the whole site. You just need to understand how people use it and then make the right small changes. So again, I want to encourage you, don't get overwhelmed with trying to build the site over again. Just look at how people are using it and make small incremental tweaks. That's all you need to do. So think about what questions you have as we've gone through this so far. I have one more section to cover, but I want to make sure we address your questions at the end. So if you have questions, start to submit them, please, into the question box. And at the end, we'll go through those. So just a brief call to action there for questions. Let me give you a warning here about what's happening with Google. This is really important if you have an active site that gets a lot of traffic from Google, or if you're thinking about launching a blog. No matter who you are, this pertains to you. Back in 2020, which now is 2 years ago, Google announced Core Web Vitals, and they said, we're changing how our rankings work. And if your page, if your website doesn't give people a good experience, you're going to be penalized for it. And so update your sites and make sure it's a good experience. That was 2 years ago, and it looked like this. And again, I won't get into the technical details here, but they have these 3 pillars that they judge your site based on. How well does it load? How interactive is it? And how much do things move around the page while it's loading? Well, Core Web Vitals, which is what this is called, is a major factor that affects your ranking in Google search. And so if your site, if your pages don't score well in Core Web Vitals, if they don't load quickly, if they're not very interactive in terms of the speed of which people can interact with them, then you will not rank highly in Google search, no matter what. And so this also affects your Google ads if you're running those, because Google has what's called quality score, which is, again, a measure of your site and how smooth and fast it is. And you will pay a premium on your Google ads if you don't have a good quality score. And so Core Web Vitals can hurt you there. So if you want to gain a competitive advantage over your competition, then focus on improving your Core Web Vitals, because what's happening here is no one is paying attention to Core Web Vitals despite how important it is. So right now, only 52%, half of the top 100 domains pass Core Web Vitals. And this is not a hard thing to pass. And I'll talk more about it in just a second here. And less than 4% of websites pass Core Web Vitals tests. And the question here you can see is yours one of them? And you're probably wondering, how do I tell if my website passes Core Web Vitals? I'm going to show you in just a second. But there's an update coming next month. This is really important. This was January 11th, 2022. Next month, Google's page experience update is coming to desktop. So for the last 2 years, it's only been on mobile. Now it's coming to desktop as well. What that means for you is that your site is at risk of Core Web Vitals updates if you're in Google, if people are finding you from Google. So you really need to pay attention to this. This is a big deal for your website. So here's how you do this. At the bottom here, you can see it says pagespeed.web.dev. You go to that site, it'll look like this. And then you type in your website in the box at the top and hit analyze. I've put in my website here and just hit analyze. And it's going to run its scoring performance. And then it'll load, and you scroll down, you'll see your score here out of 100. 100 means your site is perfect and it loads really fast and it's a great experience for people. 0 means your site never loaded at all. And you can see here at the top, there's 2 tabs, mobile and desktop. You can see how you rank on mobile and how you rank on desktop. So I'm just showing you an example here, but go to this. It's really important. Go to this page and check your site. And if you have less than 75 or 80 on mobile or desktop, talk to your dev team, get help, whatever help you need to improve this. It is really, really important for your website. And at the bottom, if you scroll down even further, they're going to show you all the things you need to fix, which is perfect. Because you can take this, you can send it to your dev team, hire a developer, and have them fix these things on your site. That will improve your Core Web Vitals score, which will improve your speed of your site, which will have you rank higher in Google. So this is really important. If you want to create a good experience for people, go do this. Make this a priority. It's very important. It's free. It's easy to do. In addition, if you want me to run it for you, just send me an email. And here's an example. Just send me an email to tim@timparkin.com and put website in the subject line and tell me your website. And not only will I run the page speed and send it back to you, but I'll look at your website and give you some other feedback on it, the major things I see that you should focus on or improve or change or things like that. So just send me an email if you want that, and I'm happy to respond and give you that for free as well. So last thing here, let's talk about the 10-step roadmap. I've shared a bunch of stuff already, the 7 essential things that you need for your website, the 3 critical mistakes to avoid. We just talked about Google's big update coming with Core Web Vitals. That's coming to desktop next month, so get ready for that. Let me conclude here with the 10-step roadmap. The 10 steps I recommend you take this year with your website to improve your marketing in general as a whole, because your website is that foundation. So let's go. Here we go. First one, determine your goals. What is the point of your website? What do you want your website to do? Do you want to sell things through it? Do you want to get people calling you? Do you want people to fill out a form? Do you want them to download something? You got to figure this out. What is the real goal of your website? What's the purpose of your website? If you don't know this, the rest of this doesn't matter. Number two, we talked about tracking. You have to set up or audit your tracking. So many of my clients, when I start working with them, either don't have tracking in place or thought they had tracking in place, and they don't. So this is really important. You have to have tracking in place and make sure you have tracking that works. So you need to audit it. Next, as we just talked about, you need to improve your core web vital score. I can't stress how important this is. It's really simple to do, but you have to give it the time and attention it deserves. Next, do a site and content audit. And I can talk more about this if you'd like, but this is basically looking at what are the pages of your site, how much traffic do they get, who really cares about those pages, are there outdated information on those pages that we need to remove, are there pages we should just get rid of altogether, what pages don't exist that we should create and add. This is a really in-depth conversation to have with internally and externally with your users, but this is really important. It's figuring out what do we need to get rid of and what do we need to add for our site. And then take that audit and prioritize and plan. And emphasis on prioritize. You can't do everything. And remember, your site is constantly in flux and changing. So don't focus on, the 10-year goal. Focus on what can we do in the next 6 months. Prioritize and plan for that. And then prototype it. Build out a first version, a first draft, if you will, because you don't want to build the whole thing. You want to start to build it and then test and gather feedback. And what I mean by test and gather feedback is invite some of your users, some of your most loyal customers, and say, hey, we're building this new version. What do you think? Is this meeting your expectations? Is this an improvement? Is this better? What should we change about this? This is being agile and being responsive to the user and putting them first. And it gives you some great feedback. From there, you can then revise that and improve it. Because good thing you haven't built the whole thing. You're not done yet. So you have the opportunity to revise it and improve it. Then you can build it and deploy it and make it live for everyone. And then number 10, of course, is to experiment, as I talked about. Your site is not static. Your site should constantly be changing and shifting and improving incrementally for the better. And you do that through experimenting and through testing and through trying new things. So that was a whirlwind run through your website. And I just want to underscore here how important your website is. And take these 10 steps and really take action. Really just think through these things with your team or yourself. This is important. And 2022, we're already 2 weeks into the year. There's only 50 weeks left. But if you make just a couple improvements to your website, remember every 1% improvement you make will have a dramatic benefit and improvement to all of your marketing.